afternoon. Welcome back to the Real Man of Real Estate. Talking with Janice Bell today about funding your real estate investments through your 401ks and maybe other people's 401ks potentially. So I I know that there's a myriad of ways to do this, but next I kind of think we want to talk about focusing on how to borrow. So what what is borrowing from a 401k? How does it work?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So I did mention that the easiest kind of investment to make was borrowing and lending it because there's only very few transactions going forward. Say you were, if you have a rental property, now your IRA has to pay for the taxes and any repairs and the management fee, and the manager can't send you the money. They have to send it directly to the IRA. So
Okay.
it's a
So
little more
everything
it's a little more
is
complicated to own it in your IRA than it is to lend money out, because you have to get other people on board to say, you can't send the money to me, even though I'm the one talking to you. You have to send it to the IRA.
okay. So something to clarify real quick there is the fees for managing the IRA in whatever form it is, or retirement account. I can pay that with external money, but
Oh,
anything
that,
to the
yes,
to properties that I'm managing has to be using the funds that came from, or that has to go through the IRA if that's how I'm investing.
exactly. So if you're buying a house, um, say you have 100K in there, you're buying a house in the Midwest, 100K, you better leave. I mean, you can contribute every year, you can add your 6,000, but you better leave enough for repairs and hot water heaters
Right.
and
Whatever else
furnaces
comes through.
and yeah, any kind of vacancy taxes or anything that might happen, contingency, because it has to come from that account.
I see. So how much can I borrow then from my 401k or self-directed amount? Like,
There is really no, from your self-directed account, whatever's
mhm,
in there
okay.
is you could lend it out. You
Okay. So
can't
there's no
borrow from
limit on
yourself.
that, but there are limits then on, like, if you're with an employer.
True, absolutely. So
Okay.
like if you had the traditional, you could lend to me on a house that I'm buying, but not to me directly, but it goes straight to escrow. And I could do the same thing with you. If you have been with the same employer, loyal employee, and you never change jobs, you now have this large account with your
Hmm.
employer. What do you do with that? How do you find hidden money there? Well, most of these 401k accounts allow some sort of borrowing, and it's actually a really good way to tap into that money and borrow it. Some people use it to buy a car. You could use it to buy real estate. So when you borrow from it, it's just a loan, and it really has nothing to do with the IRA rules. You're borrowing money, and once it's outside of that account, you can buy real estate with it. You can work with a disqualified person, your spouse, your mother, your kid,
Okay. So
whatever.
it's almost
It's just
found money
money.
in a respect.
It's just money.
Okay.
So most of them allow you to borrow up to 50% of your account, or they might have a max on it. For example, you can only borrow 50,000 at once. You're paying it back at a set interest rate that the 401k plan determines. It might be 6, might be 8. But think about
Okay.
this, you're paying interest to yourself. So you're not really losing anything, because whatever payment is automatically coming out of your paycheck to go back in there is going into your account. So
Okay.
no one else is, it's really an advantage. You're paying yourself interest.
Okay. So all right. So the management company's not getting a cut of that. That's just straight to your own account. So if I can invest in
Yeah.
something, let's say I can take out 50,000 a year from my account, every year I can invest 50,000 and get paid back on that at a higher interest rate, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
buy a rental property, buy a camper van, something like that, where I might make a 20 or 25% return. And not only am I paying myself back, but I'm making more on top of that.
Well, say you make a 25% return and your interest rate is 8%. Only the
Uh,
8% can go back into the account, because that's a loan.
oh,
The
it's a loan.
other,
Okay. So the
it's
rest
a
of it,
loan from your account, because it's just money that you
uh,
took out. It's not tied to any IRA rules at all. So it's the 25% you made minus the 8 that you put back. That's profit on the outside that has nothing to do with your 401k.
all
It's
right.
a
So
really
that's
way to make money
so,
on
so
outside
you
of
can
your account.
actually sort of get a little bit of money out of your current employer 401k that way.
And find some friends. So
That's
here's the other
fascinating.
thing is, now this is a down payment on something where you can go get a loan for it.
So you can
If you're
continue, you can use it for leverage.
you can use this in a leveraged account. Whereas the stuff that's in your IRA account, if you did find a non-recourse loan, you do have to pay this separate tax called UBIT tax, which is a business tax that's pretty high. And so you almost, if you have money in your IRA, you really want to be able to put all that money into an investment. You don't want to use it as a down payment and borrow against it unless it's a really good deal, because the tax would be high. If you borrow money from your 401k, which is not self-directed at this point, that's just cash, because you could buy a car with it. You could do whatever.
Mhm.
You could then use it as a down payment, get a hard money loan, flip a house, put your 8% back into as you do with your monthly
Mhm.
payment, and then
And
keep the profit,
spread.
and the profits
Mhm.
outside of your 401k. So
I see.
it's a
All
nice
right.
way to use that. I
That
can
is
see
nice
the
to see.
wheels turning up there, Dan.
Well, I'm just wondering if I can take a loan every year, or just once, or just one at a time for my accounts. I'll be reading my plan rules after this. You can guarantee.
Absolutely. Go dig out the fine print, right?
Absolutely. So I've also got an HSA, and I know I've heard some tricks, but I don't really know a lot about it. What's different about an HSA versus a 401k when they're still employer sponsored accounts?
Okay, good thing to ask. So there's other self-directed accounts besides traditional IRA. And there's the Coverdale one, which is for education, but you put a small amount in there, like the limits of what you put in is pretty small. The other account that's become very popular in the last 5 years is a health savings account. So it's different than the flex savings account. In the flex savings account that people are used to, your employer gives you some money to use on your disposable kind of expenses from health.
Mhm.
And it goes away at the end of the year unless
Yeah,
you
if you don't
use
spend it, you lose it. Yeah, that seems like kind of a raw deal.
So the health savings account is only comes with insurance plans that are called high deductible. So your deductible might be $3,000, and some employers put in a pretty good either half or more. Ours does less than that, but they put some money into that HSA account for you to use for your copays.
I see.
Because the deductible is so high. But my advice is for you to use your own after-tax money and pay for your own copays. Because what you really want to do is bank this tax-free money into these HSA accounts. Then, and I've read something that when you retire, because you have higher medical expenses, each person needs like $300 a month for medical expenses, including some premiums, as well as medications and doctor's visits and stuff. So you really want to have that money socked away, and it's completely tax-free. The thing is, when it's put in, it's tax-free, and that's before Medicare and Social Security is taken out. And when you take it out, it's tax-free for medical expenses. You should fill this account, because if you don't use it for medical expenses and you're retired, it gets taxed normally like traditional IRA money would, where you pay income tax on the money you take out. So there's really no harm in putting it away. You are going to use it, and even if you don't, you can use it for normal expenses.
All right, so I retire. That becomes an investment, a retirement account after I retire, pretty much no matter what.
Right, but the loophole is, and I think they might close this loophole at this point. And this is a loophole we discovered just from using the account. I don't know if that many people talk about it, but with your employer and your 401k, even if they changed providers, they're going to roll that money. So say your company gets a really good deal with Vanguard, and like 5 years from now, they get a great deal with Fidelity. They kind of take all your 401k money and they move it over for you. You don't even ever see it, right?
Got it. Right.
The loophole, sometimes your employer gets a better deal on health insurance. 1 year they're with Aetna, another year they're with Cigna, whatever. When they stop using that Aetna on January 1st and switch to Cigna, your HSA money is just hanging out there in this account. It's now not tied to your employer. It's not tied to any insurance.
So they don't roll that over.
They do not.
That's fascinating.
We discovered we had several of these accounts, and we're like, can we roll them over? Sure. And if you have less than, I think, $3,000, they start charging you either a monthly or a quarterly fee just to maintain an account
Oh,
with no interest
wow.
and just cash sitting there.
Wow.
And so your employer used to pay that when you had the health insurance with them. So you really want to find those accounts before they just get depleted by fees and roll them into a self-directed HSA account, which can be invested just like your IRA.
Wow. All right. So that's an incredible amount of flexibility potentially just by your company making changes. You don't even have to change jobs to get access to that.
Some employers change their health insurance every year or two.
Uh-huh.
And now you
All
have
right.
access. You worked for the company for 20 years, but you've had 5 different HSA accounts. Now you've rolled it all into your self-directed custodian who has not all custodians have HSA accounts just because it's a newer account and there's not as much money across the country invested in it. Because in the beginning, people would only put the 2,000 like their flex account because they didn't know it rolled over.
I
Now
see.
that they know it rolls over, they're putting money in and these accounts are growing.
Oh, wow. All right. So that's a pretty fantastic loophole. I think you're probably right. They're going to close that one. All right. Well, that's
The cool
pretty
part about
interesting.
it is young people can use this money now. It's not like way in the distant future, like a retirement account.
Right. Okay. Well, that's really useful. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. So after these messages, we'll be right back to talk to you guys soon.